Dr. Danny Block, but really, he became Dr. Danny Block while he worked for Schlock Rock.
Yes, I was
Isn't
on the
that?
Schlock Rock scholarship program. You
That's
too.
right.
Go to college at
That
Schlock Rock.
well, we're going to talk all
LA,
about that, but
LA.
we're going to talk all about that. But first, let's talk about this. Number one, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're here in the Four Corners Project Studio in Beit Shemesh, Israel. Number two, a quick trivia question to start us off, because this is show number 70. What we want to know, Danny, is not from you, but from our audience out listening, who was the 70th soul to enter Egypt, and how old was she when she gave birth to Moses? So we've given away already the first half of the answer, right? We've given it away.
Can they give the Ten Commandments name, or do they have to go with the Hebrew or the name that
whatever?
Bible?
I don't know, but I will tell you this. We'll give them the right answer. We're very lenient here. So there's our trivia question. The 70th soul to enter Egypt, and how old was she when she gave birth to Moses? You got to be good at math to be able to figure that answer out. Okay. So we have interviewed.
Yeah. Okay.
What was that, Danny?
Cecil B. DeSchlock.
That's right. Okay, so first thing is I want to give a shout out to our associate producer, Judy Hertzfeld, on the other side of the glass in Passaic in Clifton, New Jersey, and she sends regards from her husband, Oliver. Okay, so
affectionately
that's
known
number one.
Oliver, not by me, but I always called him Oliver. We're in the same
All right.
class, we're friends.
I know. So that's number one. Question. So now what I want to do is, as I introduce Danny, I'm going to tell you like this. We have interviewed so far the original drummer from Schlock Rock, Gary Wallen, the original bass player, Mark Skyer, the original percussion player, Mark Infield, the original guitar player, Yona Lloyd, and now rounding out the original six, that core six besides myself, the original sax player / violin player, Danny Block, is in studio, everybody.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's the answer. We already got an answer. Yochevet. Yochevet is the answer for those of you out there. A quick trivia question. And how old was she when she gave birth to Moshe? How old was she? So you got to figure out like this. When did Israel leave Egypt? What year was it? And how old was Moses? Then you do the math, and you'll know. Well, you know how we have to know how long the exile was. Okay, we're not going to give it, and we're not going to get into into calculus. No calculus in today's show.
Okay.
Calculus doesn't sell, Danny. Calculus does not sell.
Well, not in your study.
All right. So, first thing is, welcome to the show, Danny. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be had.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your musical beginnings. Ooh. Because most people will say, Danny Block, he's a sax player. But the truth be told, wasn't your first instrument the violin?
At 6 years old, I learned with the Suzuki violin method. Those were my first gigs. At 6 years old, there was a group. Suzuki takes its kids around to show other kids at schools and things like that, or other like Juilliard teachers and things like that. And so I was traveling with that troupe. It was 10 little Asian kids and one blonde kid at the end with the yarmulke on.
And that was you. You were the blonde kid.
I have a thank you note somewhere in Israel, and a copy of the first check I received as a professional musician at 6. So
at 6 years old?
And the lady told me, this makes you a professional because you've been paid.
That's unbelievable.
Her name was Bella Shumiacher. Wow.
See, I didn't start playing an instrument until I was 8. And, of course, we know that accordion, that's right, accordion was my first instrument. But I was 8 years old. It was 1969, March of 69, that I started playing. And I think you actually beat me to it because what year was it when you were 6? Also 69?
Yeah, I was inspired by the Mets.
Yeah, the Mets and the Jets that year. And the Knicks won in 70. The Knicks won in 70. Anyway,
And
enough sports trivia for now. So, okay, so you start off with a violin. How many years did you play the violin of lessons?
of lessons, well into my 20s. I really took.
And when did you start getting into the saxophone?
Okay, so it's a weird story, but my uncle Jack, who you know knew very well, was a musician. He played violin and clarinet and sax. That's an old club day triple. You've been with many Eddie Malamed, lots of guys in the music business. Of course, none of them have
Yes, they
yet
played violin and they played
survived the dead.
sax.
Right, right. So my uncle was one of those guys, and I was content with violin. Actually, saxophone was a nice idea, but I had to play clarinet to get the saxophone. This was my father's program. The real reason was, you don't know the story. My uncle Jack was on the ship going to Normandy as a soldier. Guy gets on the ship. This is a true story. At least that's what was told to me. It's a legend in my family. Guy gets on the ship, says, "I'm from the band." No, where I'm a mission from God. No, he said, I'm from the band. Does anybody here play clarinet? We need a clarinet player. It's a permanent position in the band. We got a clarinet player. You get off the ship and you come with me. My uncle raised his hand, got off the ship, and it saved his life. His whole unit was wiped out.
I don't believe it. Well, that's a fabulous story.
So my father then goes, when it's his turn and he gets drafted, my father's not exactly Rambo. We'll put it, Hamevin Yavin.
Right.
So he was supposed to be in infantry, and he was doing his first 8 weeks basic training, and he was so tough that he got pneumonia. Okay. He misses a week and a half, comes out in time for the exam. He says to me, he doesn't know how he put that gun together, but it all came together. He passed. He thought he was going to have to repeat the first 8 weeks. Before the second 8 weeks, he went to the band school. The predicate was that his brother told him, "You're going to be drafted. You got to learn clarinet." Gave him a lesson a day. Played till his lips fell off. Goes to the band school and says, "Look, guys, I'm a little rusty. I haven't played in a few years." Auditions. He reads really well because he's a great piano player, and he gets the gig. And so,
your father and your uncle were in the army as army band players.
Yeah, my father went home at night. He used to drive an hour and a half. He said there was no kosher food over there, so he used to drive home, wake up early, go out in time to play the troops.
It's an amazing story. Amazing story.
It is.
See,
he said he used to hear it. Oh, okay.
My father was in the Korean War, but he spent the Korean War in France and Germany because they didn't send him to battle. They sent him to France and Germany. So he spent 2 years, I guess with his platoon, but he did not have to see action, which was a big blessing. And he was deciding whether or not to do chaplaincy or to be a private. And they went to a famous rabbi, and the rabbi said, private. Because if you're a chaplain, yes, because if you're a chaplain, you're going to Korea. But if you're a private, you're not going to have to go.
Wow.
So you see, we all have these army stories. But me and you have escaped that.
Yes. I think they would have looked at me and said, "It's all right. Go."
Well, no, we were lucky enough to be born in the 60s when, we have not had to, thank God, we have not had to be in battle. We've not had, right now, I'd say right now with the COVID, it's the hardest time of our lives, in terms of career, in terms of making a living, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, for those of you out there, Danny actually lives in Israel. But he has a dental practice here in America, not here in America, but in America. And so you've been kind of, I don't want to say stuck here, but.
Tell me about it. Yeah, I was stuck. I also had a passport that expired in the middle of everything else. It took them 3 months to get it back to me. I've been in America now since Sukkot.
Since Sukkot, since the holiday of Sukkot, which is October, end of September, beginning of October. All right.
So the kids have been going back and forth, and Laura's here, and so on and so forth.
So we are already 12 minutes into our interview. It flies. Now let's talk about. We kind of led parallel lives musically because even though you were 2 years younger than me, I believe 2 to 3 years younger than me, but you went to Queens College when I was there. I was in Queens College with you,
Yep.
and I watched you play with this band. That's right. I remember watching you play at Hillel in Queens College with AJ and was it AJ Nyman? AJ was it
No,
Alan Nyman, right?
Nyman.
And Sheppy Rosenman, and on drums Joe John Paul, right?
Right. It had been Gershon Adams had played with us, but Joe John Paul went to college with us. So
right. So the thing is, I remember watching you guys, and you were playing violin at that time.
Yeah, I was learning sax, and I was already playing clarinet. But we also, that was Moshe Shore of Diaspora Yeshiva Bands.
Right.
It was his Hillel. He was the I don't know, head rabbi of Hillel for Queens College. I don't know what the position was called. I guess director. He was director of Hillel, and then I ran an open jam there for like once a week also, that people used to come to, jam out, play, do whatever. And eventually I ended up playing a couple of gigs, 2 guitars and a violin and a fiddle in the Village and other places with Moshe Shore and Carl Bach, or however you want to.
Wow, it's amazing.
So at that time, I didn't realize, I was just going to get paid, and I was having a good time because they're both a little crazy, in a good way. I don't, I'm not saying anything. No lechon.
Well, I didn't hear that last comment, so that comment gets stricken from the record. Now, Danny, let's talk about how you joined the band. The key is like this: I really met you when you did sound for one of our concerts. I think it was February '88. It might have been March '88. And then the next show, I put you on the bandstand. You joined the band right after that. Isn't that correct? I think, was it May '88 or was it March?
It was March, but you met me before that because you guys were doing NCSY when you were Kesher.
Right.
You were doing NCSY Baltimore Seaboard region. Hey, Itchy.
Rabbi Lowen Brown. That's right.
And, right. He used to actually, the first time I did, Yonah Lloyd took me to National one year. I had a beard.
For those of you that don't know, National is National Convention.
Oh, not regional.
Regional. It's regional for Seaboard region, which would be Baltimore area. Yeah.
I hold the Baltimore on. And I had a beard and a ponytail. Itchy says he didn't do it, but he was telling the kids not to talk to that guy. And he was like,
well, you do have that effect on people,
Yeah, I'm an acquired taste.
That's not true, actually. Now, okay, so you joined the band. You were the final piece of the puzzle because you joined as the sax player, and also you played violin, which came in very handy for songs like Minion Man, which because you would play the solo on Minion Man, and you were pressed into action with our summer tour, where our first show was at Camp Raleigh, where your dad and your mom, may she rest in peace, your mom and dad ran that camp, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had nothing to do with getting you the gig.
They just liked that. They liked us.
Oh, of course. I said, all right, Mom and Dad, you got to hire this guy. He's coming. No, actually, I got you the first gig. You got yourself the second gig.
Well, we were good.
Yeah. You were standard there for a bunch of years.
Listen, Schlock Rock was the greatest Jewish rock and roll band in the 80s. Now, the thing is, at that time, we were probably the only Jewish rock and roll band in the 80s that was touring, camps.
Yeah.
We love to tour. I mean, you went with us everywhere. I know that you always say that Schlock Rock was the college that you never had.
No, yeah, but I didn't go away to college. I had plenty in the Schlockers.
Yes. And so, you went with us on the summer tour. And Schlock Rock, we became part of the fraternity of Schlock. The fraternity of Schlock. We were like the Animal House of your
absolutely. Absolutely. It's good that, there was a good influence to it because if these were people, if all of us were as crazy as we were and like religion and Kiruv wasn't part of it, this could have taken a bad direction. So
We never
it's
did.
your fault that we were in a good direction and doing
We never
kadoshes
took a bad
work
direction. We never did.
from God, just like the Blues Brothers, except for we were for real.
Yes, we were on a mission for blood, and I want to tell you something else. We also had some really, really funny stories. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Tell me the funniest story that you ever have without mentioning the name of the community, because we don't want it to speak Lashon Hara. But I'll tell you what it is. But let's see if you get it, because it involved you and Yona.
Oh, at the bungalow colony?
No, not the bungalow colony.
Oh, Mr. Rabbi, Mrs. Ginsburg. Except nobody knows which rabbi, which Mrs. Ginsburg, and their name is Cohen.
Good. The names have been changed. But what really happened is that in the beginning, communities used to do things all the time because there was no security on planes. There was no security anywhere. And, they would make us fly under their names.
Not so much. But
well, until this happened, we would fly a lot, especially when we did, NCSY Shabbatons. We always flew under other people's names. I don't know if you knew that, but we did. At least I did. Anyway, so this one community makes tickets, and all the four of us, we get to the airport, but I went early with
You went
Mark
early. It was just you and I because we went. You had the most educated band in all of music because I was in dental school and you had
Yona in law school.
And Yona was in law school. So Yona and I met at the airport. And Yona had a
Right,
ticket
and I forgot to tell you, don't go up to the counter, use the sky cap.
Right. We had no idea. We went up to the counter. The tickets say Mr. Miss Eminem, Mr. and Mrs. Ginsburg. I say, no, it's a mistake. It's supposed to be Michael Ginsburg.
Well, no, the punchline is they said to you, which
here.
one of you is Mrs. Ginsburg?
Right. So they said,
was...
which one of you is Mrs. Ginsburg? And I said, no, that's a mistake. I'm Michael Ginsburg. She said, do you have ID? I said, yes. Said, can I see it? I said, it doesn't say I'm Michael Ginsburg.
No, you also said it's in the car, and then you tried to fake them out, but then they made you buy first class tickets. I'm not even saying where we went. No, not me. I didn't buy it. The community reimbursed.
You were just borrowing. This is crazy.
Community reimbursed it, but it was the last time we ever flew.
It's an emergency. I got to take it. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
All right. So I'll finish the story. It was the last time we ever flew under somebody else's name. And that was the way it used to be in the 80s, where we used to fly under other people's name and they would take the mileage because it's just the way it was. That's the way bands were treated. All right. So listen, while Danny is away and we're already 20 minutes into his interview, let me do a little bit of paperwork. First thing is, this is our 70th show, and believe it or not, we have had over 74,000 views, meaning we're averaging 1,076 views per show, and this is amazing. And keep it up, all of you out there. Keep it up. You really need to support the work of the Four Corners Project, because that's why we're here. www.fourcornersproject.org. You have to support the work of the Four Corners Project. Make a tax-deductible donation, one donation for the year. If I know we have Schlock Rock has got so many fans, but we've played to over the years, and all you have to do, just $36, $18, $54, whatever you want, $100, whatever you want to do, you guys. But make one donation for the year and keep us going, because we have a tremendous lineup planned for you this year. Okay, so also, if you're watching from Facebook, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment. If you're watching from YouTube, press subscribe and like. We have two YouTube channels that this is going out to, Schlock Rock and the Four Corners Project. So remember, www.4cornersproject.org. The number 4cornersproject.org. I want you to make sure that you make a donation. And also, we're on LinkedIn and we're on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, retweet it, and give it a heart. Do whatever you got to do. Very, very important. Next thing, we're going to keep taking care of paperwork as Danny is on a dental call. And that's never happened to us. You see, that's the greatest thing about live internet television. Okay, we want to wish a refuah shlema to Miriam Dodi, Bat Chana Yochevet. That means they should have a clean bill of health. Miriam Dodi, Bat Chana Yochevet. Yitzchak Ben Yenta. Aliza, Bat Batsheva. Aryeh Leib Ben Rivka. And there are more names here, ladies and gentlemen. There are more names. Danny, I think I hear him coming back. Shlomo Elimelech Ben Rivka. Chaya Bat Faya Sarida. Yosef Michael Ben Yehudit Shoshana had a heart transplant, and he's doing much better. He's doing really well. So,
I'm back. Sorry.
That's the scoop. Very good, Danny. I did all the paperwork while you were away, but telling everybody to support the Four Corners Project and also give us a thumbs up, subscribe, give us a like, all that stuff. I've been watching a lot of other YouTube bloggers and video bloggers do this stuff. So thumbs up, give us a like, leave a comment. Very, very important. Send me an email. And still, we have not had an answer to the question, how old was Yochevet when she gave birth to Moses? I will tell you the answer at the end of our show. We have around, I'm going to say, 5 to 10 minutes left with Danny. All right. You were on a lot of albums with us. Give us the voice. See if you can remember the voice of the Kosher Police, of the character you played in the Kosher Police.
I was the assistant. I think, I don't remember my name, but it was Shabbos. Shabbos, and I was good. He was Shabbos. It was something like that, but this is the voice that I did.
That was the voice you did, and your name was Tsuris.
Oh, Tsuris, yes. It's sort of I grew up in the Bronx, so it's sort of a Bela Lugosi meets a Spanish-speaking person.
It was fantastic. It was such a funny character. You were one of the villains of the Kosher Police.
Absolutely. I loved it.
You also had one of the greatest lines in Lenny and the Schlockers in the shtick to the song Baruch Hashem. And and you used the line, I think you said the line about being a Pastafarian.
No, that wasn't me. I think, actually, it's going to blow you away, but I think it was Mark.
That was Mark Infield?
I think Mark.
But then, no, I don't think so. But then you said, wrong studio. That's what you said.
Yes. No, actually, that was Yonah.
Oh, yeah, that was Yonah. No, then you said the Pastafarian line. You definitely said the Pastafarian line.
This is advanced dreidel. Jack's about it open.
No, but that was Dr. D.
Right, but it ended up with my face and his voice.
So we had a lot of fun in the studio. And also you played Mr. Rosenstein in the I'll Be Called Michal song and bring back that Shabbos feeling.
I couldn't. I don't remember that at all until you just mentioned it. Wow.
Yeah. So we had a lot of fun in the studio doing shtick on the albums.
This whole experience, I mean, it was a little bit more serious for you because this was your livelihood. But for us, I mean, we took it very seriously, but we were having a lot of fun. I mean, yes, we also made money, but we were having a blast, man. I never looked at it like I guess I did take it seriously, but not to the point where I would get where I would get worried, because Hashem, God, is the one that provides your income. You have to kind of come to terms with that. See, what happens is you start off by saying, oh my God, I'm making a living. And then you think it's you. Throughout the years, you think it's you, you think it's you, you think it's you. And then all of a sudden, if you're having a bad year, you realize that it's not you. It's God. And that God is the one giving you. And you have to understand where your parnasa, where your income is coming from. It all comes from God. My thought about is always that God is in control. You are exactly where you're supposed to be because God put you there. I am stuck in the United States without the ability to go to my house in Israel because that's where I'm supposed to be. I may not see why, I may not like where I am, but I'm where I'm supposed to be. So,
well, hopefully everything will get better in the next 3-4 months.
yeah, I'm
We're hoping.
definitely back for Purim.
I
have my first vaccine already, so.
You already had the vaccine? So everybody out there, because I had corona.
You don't need one.
I don't get a vaccine. They told me no vaccine for you. No vaccine for you, they said. But I don't know how long that lasts. How long do antibodies last in your system?
Nobody knows. I think eventually you'll need a vaccine. Nobody knows how long the vaccine lasts.
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so you got to roll with it, as they say. Roll with it. Now, you turned me on to some great electric violin rock players like Jean-Luc Ponty.
Oh, Jean-Luc Ponty. I love New Country, my favorite thing.
Yes, you taught me. That was one of the most fabulous violins and songs. I used to listen to it all the time.
Yeah, I used to be able to play it note for note. What
was great about that song was that it made you feel good. You know? It was a pick me up.
In Raleigh, I was in basketball team. We used to play that to come out and do our layups. We used to play that too.
Really?
Yeah, the other teams didn't know what we were doing.
See, Shmuel Wasserman, Oliver Shalom, turned me on to Dave Grusin,
Sure.
Mountain Dance. That whole album. That whole album.
That was before Dave Grusin became a gadol. He had his own recording company and all that. But he was big deal. With I don't know, was Dave Koz the sax player on that? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I never really got into the musicians of those bands. But they were real jazz guys. They were real fusion jazz guys.
Right. And because I was coming from the violin end and Jean-Luc Ponty and actually Mahavishnu Orchestra, which was where Jean-Luc Ponty started. And anything that had a violin going to it, I can't believe it. It's the same emergency, Lenny. I apologize.
Really?
It's right. Yeah.
That's okay. You got to do what you got to do. You want us to hold, or should we say goodbye?
I'll come back if you're still on my screen.
You got it.
Hello.
All right. So it's funny. This now. Let me just tell you that next Wednesday at 3 p.m. we're going to be having Penny the Guitar Rosenthal joining us as we leave the original 6 and we go to Schlock Rock 2.0. Who is the musician after Yonah Lloyd? Who played guitar after Yonah Lloyd left the band? Penny the Guitar Rosenthal. He has agreed to come into our studio for an interview next Wednesday, January 20th. So I'm just going to let you guys know that. That was quick. Yes. I'm just telling them, you know who's coming on studio next week? Penny the Guitar Rosenthal.
Penny.
So that's
the Guitar Rosenthal.
Yes. So that'll be a great interview. And then
you should tell all the kids from Yeshiva to watch.
Well, all I can tell you is, right now, you know what he does now? I think he works for the OU, I think. Or he works for...
What happened? I thought he was...
He left... No, he left Manhattan Jewish Experience. I don't know. We're going to find out next week what exactly he's doing with himself.
Stay tuned. I will stay tuned because I'm very interested.
Now, you know... So, Danny, I want to... Let's close off by me asking you one question. Give me a moment that stands out. First thing that pops into your head. A moment that stands out in your career with Schlock.
Wow, there's so many, Lenny. There's so many. There's most of them were I was embarrassing myself, or I was watching you embarrass yourself, or not musically. No. These are just what happens when 4 guys just hang out all the time, and you're in better accommodations and less good accommodations. I went to a hotel that was not the finest hotel in the mountains, and I riffed and ripped the hotel, whatever, and everybody's laughing and looking at me. A moment right out of the movies where I actually said, he's standing right behind me, isn't he? And he was.
I know, but I wasn't talking about embarrassing moments. I was talking about. We're not talking about the time that I lost my temper and yelled at the janitor of the hotel because he insulted the band. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, and he was about 93.
Well, listen, we're not trading embarrassing stories. We want to talk about what
playing Wembley was a really, really big, great thing.
It was really fantastic.
College, but Wembley was it. Playing, unfortunately, to make the show in Baltimore was a huge show. But yeah, and every time that that we always had the theory that we played the music, God turned it into Bruce Springsteen and sent it to the crowd. But
that's what I thought.
I thought we were the most fun show to watch in all of Jewish music. Maybe one of the top 10 ever shows for having a good time. Not saying the most musically brilliant. It was musically good, but the entertainment play between it, people could see that we were having a great time. And
yes.
I think that's what came over.
And that's the thing. That was what made you the perfect final piece to the band. Speaking as the band leader, I was always behind the keyboard. Can't really go anywhere, right? You got the drummer, you got the bass player, you had Mark Infield who's behind the percussion, and then it was you and Yona who were my bookends, and you guys moved. You guys moved around. And then we would bring out JJ. We would bring out JJ and Dr. D. We would bring out JJ and Dr. D for the rap stuff, and then eventually Eitan G. But the point is, and then Eitan G eventually stayed on for the entire show. But the funny thing is that I think you were right. I think the show was so exciting from a person's perspective. And the proof to that is Steve Bill, who is the musical mentor of me and the band. He always would say that people hear with their eyes. So even though we weren't exactly the greatest musicians that ever lived, we were not aficionados where we could play 64 riffs in a row without making a mistake. That we moved around. And chemistry, and we moved around that. It was fun. And the energy, it was the energy we gave.
I love running into the crowd. Once I went wireless, forget it. You can find me at the other end of the building playing sometimes.
That's right. I remember when you went wireless, it was fabulous. And Yona was wireless. And then eventually Mo Shapiro joins the band after Penny, and he takes the guitar and he puts it behind his head in the middle of the Baruch HaGever solo. People they couldn't believe the Jewish musicians could do stuff like that. And that it was a fantastic thing, and we spread Jewish pride and Jewish identity, and we made people say, I'm proud to be a Jew. And I'm going to learn more about Judaism. And we didn't have to do it by saying it. That was the greatest thing.
Well, we sang it because you wrote it.
We sang it, but they felt it. They felt it from our energy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And when we were having a good time, they were having a good time. There were times, though, when actually my favorite times were when sometimes we did get to play at a different level. Sometimes it all came together just right. Even something like a Barbanel, sometimes the harmonies were just
harmonies perfect. Yes,
and sometimes
the harmonies were amazing. Yes,
sometimes one of us would get off a solo that was just something. We did it 65 times. That 66th time we nailed it. 67 was a little weak, but that sometimes it just came.
Yeah, listen, I loved it also
because you could play the same notes the same way, or you can take improvisation over the same chords, and on Monday it was all right, and on Tuesday it was brilliant, and Wednesday, okay. It was just, sometimes it just happened. And
so I just want to, I'm just going to close up now. I want to tell the audience, Yocheved was 130 years old when she gave birth to Moses. Is that crazy? Now, how do we know this? Because the Jewish exile was 210 years. Moses was 80 years when he leaves Egypt. And Yocheved was born as they're entering Egypt. So it's an exact 210-year period. And Yocheved, the mother of Moses, was 130 years old. And the Torah doesn't even talk about it. It's very interesting how the Bible does not mention the age of Yocheved. But she was actually 30 years older than Sarah. 40 years old. Sarah was 90, right, when she gave birth. This is 40 years more than that. She broke the record, you know?
And nobody was laughing, not like Yitzchak.
No,
But,
they weren't laughing. Anyway, so I want to thank you for coming on. And everybody out there, remember to go to www.fourcornersproject.org, make a donation for the year. Come back tomorrow night. We're going to have a musical show. Show number 71 will be a musical show. I've been wearing the hockey jersey of the Minnesota Wild. I got all these new hockey jerseys, Danny, as you know. I can't resist not wearing them, even though you can't really see them. So maybe I'll wear this again tomorrow so you can actually see the whole jersey.
Well, I have to wear, not to take COVID home on my hair or whatever. I wear scrub caps now, so I wear the Yankees just because I wanted to
There we go, the Yankees. Okay, so good. So we're a sports team. Yesterday, I wore last week I wore for David Winter the Mets and the Jets because I thought he was a big Jets fan, but he's actually a Giant fan. Anyway, there we go. We got the mask. We got the Yankees
mask.
Take
the boy out of the Bronx, but you can't take the Bronx out of the boy.
The Bronx and Queens meet again. All I can tell everybody is have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night at 11 p.m. Israel time, 4 p.m. New York time, 9 p.m. UK time, and do the math for everything else. We will see you tomorrow night. Thank you for coming to Lenny Solomon Live. Keep on schlocking, everybody, and feel the Emunah.
Yeah.